system, but it will be on the final exam. So just as a heads up. Written assignment number 2 will be due on April the 25th, and we are on track for our final exam on Monday, May 11th. Okay. All right. Yes, Sandra.
Hi, Professor. I was wondering if you can go over the writing assignment due on Saturday just one more time, please, so I can get a better understanding.
The written assignment that's due on Saturday the 7th, which would be the same for the second one, it relays, it's really just on any topic that's related to the course. Right, you can write up. I open it up specifically because I want you to write about something that interests you, but just as long as it focuses on something related to the juvenile justice system. It doesn't have to be anything we've talked about. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. I do periodically do send out interesting articles that you could, if it interests you, you can obviously use that as a topic for your paper. But that's the guidelines are in the announcements link with the rubric. It's 4 pages. The body of the report is 4 pages. When you include the title page and the reference page, 6 pages. That's it. I'd like for you to please keep it within the 4-page body of the report, only because I have a lot of papers to read. So if you're 4 pages is not a lot. It really isn't. It's double spaced. It's not a lot of space to put a lot of stuff in there. So, and I do that specifically because I want you to just write very concisely on a topic that is of interest to you. Okay. It's APA formatted, 7th edition. I did send out a link about that. So if you follow that link, it helps you page per page what that page should look like. You'll do well. You'll do well. So do you have any specific questions, Sandra?
So we don't have a specific prompt. You didn't give us a specific prompt to follow then, right? We get to choose what we want to write about in this assignment. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. If you want to write about something very, very specific, like let's say the juvenile justice system or let's just say juvenile murderers, right? Great topic. I mean, there's a lot of good information about that. We've talked a little bit about violent offenders. You definitely want to look at some statistical information as to the number of violent crimes that are committed by juveniles. You want to talk about maybe some demographic information as to age, who's more likely to commit murder as a juvenile. We know it's like 16, 17-year-olds. Any type of other demographic information that you find of interest. If you want to be even more specific than that, children who kill their parents, right? Parasite. It's not very often that children kill their parents. It really isn't. I mean, it sounds like it does because the media covers it a lot when it happens, like the Menendez brothers and Nick Reiner when he killed his parents. But it's not. It doesn't happen very often. So there's not a ton of information about children who kill their parents, but there's some out there that's quite interesting. And so you just want to pick up on that research and just kind of expand on it a little bit. Okay. So.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you always need outside sources, Ida. Always, yes. If you look at the rubric, it clearly says 3 peer-reviewed sources. 3 peer-reviewed sources. Minimum. You can always go a little bit more, but again, it's only 4 pages, so I'm sure you're not going to get a ton of resources. But 3 of them have to be peer-reviewed. You can use the textbook in lieu of one of those peer-reviewed. The textbook technically is not peer-reviewed, but I'll accept the textbook as a source, and then the other 2 have to be peer-reviewed. And then you can use other sources, but that's what I'm looking for, okay? Professor, so can I do my paper based on what more school shooting, more schools should have more police on campus? Yeah, that's what interests you. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Isla, go ahead.
I was just a little confused. I have been trying to find the actual rubric. Is it attached through like the grades? Like, do I have to go to the grade section and like click like? Because I was trying to find the breakdown of the instruction so that I could follow everything correctly.
You see the announcements? You see here on the announcements?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good. This is my view. This is not student view, but it should be pretty much the same. There's a written assignment rubric.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
There you go.
All right. Thank you very much.
If you follow this is what these are the points. So if you do this, you get the 9 points. If you do the mechanics, you get the 5 points. APA, you get 7 points. Okay. And then if you go to the APA resources, that's where you'll find some additional resources for you guys. Watch out. Okay, it's on the announcement. This, I believe this was emailed to you guys back on January the 20th. So you should have those already. Did you say I'm cool, or did you just say cool overall? Cool, thank you. Oh, I said cool, thank you. Okay, all right. So let's see, where am I? All right, okay, any other questions on the calendar? Okay, let me get rid of that. And then I think I got this video that I wanted to show you. Can you guys see this? And hear it?
No, I can't see it. I can hear it.
DeAndre was on the run.
Can't see it or hear it?
It showed up. Yep.
Okay.
He had got into a domestic dispute with his child's mother. She knew he was on the run. She still called the police on him. Not taking anything or saying anything negative about her.
Oh, damn it, I forgot. Okay. You're going to see some of you have seen this already. Some of you haven't. There's going to be a shooting. Very graphic. Very disturbing. I got to tell you that. All right. There you
So
go.
he fled to a house that was down the street. So he gets into a standoff with, I would say, about 15, 20 sheriff officers.
It shows a black screen.
You still can't see it?
Yeah, you can only hear the audio, but you can't see the image itself.
You still cannot see. Okay, then. And this is on YouTube, so I don't know why they're not letting me show it to you. Okay. So, all right. I gave it 2 good tries. It's not working. If you're interested, it's on Amazon Prime. It's called Catching Hell in the City of Angels. It shows a very graphic shooting of this young person. And I think it just goes to, for me, the way that I interpret this is the lack of relationships between the police and the community members, especially very young community members. And unfortunately, it ended with the tragic death of this young man that you were hearing his voice a little bit on that video. So it's unfortunate they won't let me show it to you. So, but anyway, Amazon Prime, if you have it, it's there, and you don't have it, make a friend with somebody that does have it so you guys can see it. Okay, so police roles. Just let me touch base on a couple of articles again, if you are interested. This really talks about the fatal encounters between law enforcement and juvenile and kids, basically children. So juvenile fatalities and law enforcement encounters. Again, fortunately, doesn't happen a lot, which is a good thing. But when it does, obviously very tragic. Obviously, it's just a sad situation all around. But there's some really good information on here if you're interested in taking a look at that as a topic for your paper. This one gets a little bit more specific. Between 2015 and 2020, the study finds that more than 300 juveniles were shot by the police between 15 and 20. 1/3 of them were fatal, resulted in death of the kid. So again, it happens, unfortunately, but not in large numbers. It doesn't happen in large numbers. So I'm going to talk to you about one case that you may have heard of. Here, I'll show it to you, then I'll come back.
Send him, please!
Keep your eye on the guy in the black hoodie.
Hey, easy with the gun. Easy with the gun. Easy with the gun. Okay. Hey, 24 yellow, firearm recovered. As of right now, this is our only suspect, the one that we're doing medical work on right now. Medics are cleared in.
Okay, so this happened in San Diego PD. This is from this scene right here is from the officer's body cam. He hears shots fired. He's running towards the shots that are being fired. Okay. Well, can't see it, but anyway, this kid, his name's Canola Wilson, 16 years old, was at the train station. I don't know what they call the trolley station there. And I guess he got into some beef with the guy in the black hoodie. The black hoodie guy took out a gun and started shooting at this Wilson boy. And the Wilson boy is running away from the guy in the black hoodie, right? Because he's being shot at. So he's running away, and he happens to run into the police officer who's running towards the shooting. They cross the path. The officer ends up shooting this kid in the back, I think 2 or 3 times in the back. And then he identifies himself as a San Diego police officer, right? So you see the shooting that's happened, and that's where I stopped it, is where the shooting occurred, right? So he gets shot in the back. The kid did not, the kid had a gun on him, on his body, but he was not brandishing the gun. So the officer never saw the gun. The kid wasn't a threat to the officer. He ended up shooting him in the back and killing him. He died, the little boy died, 16-year-old boy, okay? And then eventually, as they're, medics come and they're performing CPR and they're doing all that stuff, they find out that he actually ended up having a gun on him, okay?
Send him, please!
Then he identifies himself. So this is the part where, this is the circle kid, that's Wilson, he's 6, Canoa Wilson, he's 16. And then the guy in the black hoodie, he's armed with a gun. They had some kind of exchange of words. Something was said, whatever.
Spectrum is helping build America.
And then the guy with the
100% U.S.-based workforce.
And he shoots towards Wilson a couple of times. You see the flash from the gun, right? Yes, he did get caught. 9 days later, he was arrested. Do you see the couple of flashes there? And then as that little boy is running, obviously to get away from this other kid with a gun, ends up running into the police officer. getting shot and killed him. So, sad situation. As a result of this incident, and again, I don't know if you've heard this. I don't know how involved you are in this case, if you even heard about it. But the family obviously sued, right? Obviously, and the city of San Diego agreed to a $30 million payout. $30 million. This case, so far, then this happened in 23, and I think they settled in early 25, late 23, late 24, early 25. $30 million. This has been, as of this date, the highest settlement of a police officer involved shooting in the history of this country. George, my goodness. The guy from Minneapolis, I already got. What is it? What's his last name?
From Minneapolis. George Floyd.
From Minneapolis.
George Floyd.
George Floyd? Is that his name? That's it? Okay. His family got $27 million. At that point, that was the highest settlement. Now this kid from San Diego is $30 million. I mean, just an enormous amount of money because of the era of this officer and killing this boy. So that's as of today, that is still the highest settlement in a police officer involved shooting. $30 million for this little boy. Sad case. Sad case. As far as I know, the last I heard, the officer's still on duty. He's still working. So it's a tough job. It really is. It's a tough job. So I want to spend some time talking about police discretion. Police discretion, okay? Because the police really are expected to address a number of problems, a lot of social problems, and so the nature of this involvement between the police and the public, but I'm really specifically talking about kids, juveniles, is that police tend to intervene in various situations to ensure really that matters don't get worse. It's the containment idea. They're trying to contain the situation, right? So their interventions and then the various ways that they intervene in these situations is really just to ensure that the matters don't get worse. So much of this situationally based discretion, it's a term you're going to see again, situationally based discretion in confronting crime in the streets is actually very covert. And when I say it's covert, it's because it's not out in the open. There's no policies in place. There's no structure to it. It happens when it happens. You can get one officer, or you can get two officers that see the same situation, and they're going to come out to this different conclusions. That's situationally based discretion, based on the situation. Okay. Much of what happens or transpires in the interaction between a police officer and a juvenile suspect, if you will, is only known to those two individuals. We call them actors. The police officer is an actor. The kid is an actor. Okay. So whatever transpires in the interaction between these two actors is really known only to these two actors, these two individuals. Okay. Police officers make what's referred to, again, situation-based discretion. Right? They make these on-the-spot decisions. I think you saw it on the video that I just showed you in San Diego. They make these on-the-spot decisions about whether to do two things. Number one, as a police officer, do you move beyond just a simple verbal warning or some kind of reprimand? Or number two, do you escalate it to a more formal action. An arrest, citation, unfortunately a shooting, something to that. Those are more formal actions, okay? Or is it you can just tell them to knock it off, or maybe bring them into the station and call their parents, or call their parents from the field, or yell at them, or just something. Those are the informal stuff. Police officers have to make these on-the-spot decisions about whether to move from a very informal, like the warnings, the reprimands, or do they move to more formal action against these kids? And again, 2 different police officers, same situation, 2 different outcomes. Police are obviously the most visible actors in the juvenile justice system. And they're responsible for 3 main responsibilities. Number 1, obviously, is law enforcement. Obviously, right? I mean, they're law enforcement officers. So there you go. I'll get to that in a second. So law enforcement's one of them. Order maintenance is number 2, keeping order. And then number 3 is service. Service to the community, to the city, to the wherever. Service to the service. Law enforcement, order, maintenance, and service. Wouldn't it always be formal? No. It's not always going to be formal. When you talk about a formal contact, and this is for adults and for juveniles, but anytime that a police officers make a formal contact, that means that there's a record. An arrest creates a record. A ticket creates a record, right? Okay. Sadly, a shooting creates a record. Those are all formal contacts. Okay, when a police officer arrests someone, there's a formal record, and eventually, in many cases, that gets reported to the federal government. And then the FBI creates that, the Uniform Crime Report, Crime in America, blah, blah, blah. Police officer makes contact with a 16-year-old kid after school and asks, why aren't you in school? It's 10 o'clock, why aren't you in school? Get your ass to school, hurry up. Where's the record? Arrested didn't occur, wasn't given a ticket for truancy. What record is there for that contact? There's none. That's an informal contact. That's not going to get reported to the FBI. That's not going to get reported to any official reporting source. It's informal. The vast majority, I'd say probably, around the 55-60% range, maybe even a little bit higher, of contacts between a police officer and a juvenile are informal. So there's no record. There's literally, there's no record of that contact. Okay. So, law enforcement, order, maintenance, service. When the police confront, and so here's the difference then, another difference. When the police confront an adult versus a juvenile, police officers and they're trained from the training part of it, they believe that when they interact with juveniles, it's because those kids need protection. Juveniles are seen as needing more protection than adults. A police officer makes contact with an adult suspect, it's not for the purpose of protecting them because they're vulnerable. That's the way with kids, because they're kids, based on their status, right? Remember, we talk about status offenders, right? We talked about that as well too. difference between the contacts with adults and juvenile. So, based on that frame of mind, right, because these kids need more protection, police officers then are allowed to a large extent to exercise discretion during those police juvenile interactions. Okay, police discretion during these contacts with kids. The discretion part of it really becomes a critical factor in turning something informal to a formal contact. Okay, I'll get into that more deeply now. There we go. All right. Police officers are really the front line, first responders, if you will. I mean, that's fine. And these two things. Number one, the prevention of crime that's committed by kids. And number two, it's the control of street crime that's committed by kids. Yes, Carlos.
What were the other two actors? Most visible actors? I assume the other one might be juvenile, but
the actors are the police and the juvenile.
Oh, okay.
Those are the two actors.
And then the third one, the third most visible actor?
It's a police officer.
So it's okay. So it's police, juveniles, and police officers.
The most visible actors in an interaction between the police are the most visible actors in the juvenile justice system. That was my comment. Okay.
Oh, okay.
But the police officers, being the most visible actors, are responsible for the three main roles and responsibilities. That's the law enforcement, service maintenance part of it, the order maintenance part of it, order maintenance, and then the service part of it. They serve the community, right?
Mm.
So it's law enforcement, order maintenance, and service.
Oh, okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay. So again, prevention of crime committed by juveniles, and then also the control of street crime that's committed by juveniles, so the first responders, the front line, if you will. So depending on the circumstances, police officers are vested with considerable discretionary powers. More so with juveniles than with adults. Police officers, if you're thinking about becoming a police officer, law enforcement officer, you're going to see that just through the course of your work and training and experience, you're going to exercise more discretionary powers with juveniles than with adults. And I'm going to show you a video in a second. Okay. So again, that discretionary power can range from just a verbal warning, or, I mean, if you think about it, all the way to using deadly force. That's the range of interactions that you're going to have with these kids. What is police discretion? This is the definition I'm using. Police discretion is the range of behavioral choices that police officers have within the limits of their power. It's the range of behavioral choices that police officers have within the limits of their power. And so, what influences police discretion? Well, that's a difficult question to answer, because the answer really is there's a lot. there are many factors. Some, I have to tell you, that aren't very legal, and I'll get into that in a second. Okay, but there are many factors. The situation is one of them. Absolutely. Matter of fact, I'm going to talk about that. Right. But police discretion is influenced by a ton of factors, including, I'm sorry to have to tell you this, including the race of the kid, ethnicity, gender plays a role, socioeconomic status, the age of the kid. Matter of fact, if we really want to go down this rabbit hole, I can tell you for a fact, because I know this, I've seen it, the age of the officer, the gender of the officer, that plays a role in discretion. Okay. Some of these things are not necessarily legal, but it's a reality. So, and because there's no structure to it, there's no policy, there's nothing in writing, there's a lot of inconsistency. Police officers are many times inconsistent in their decision-making process because it's very ambiguous. It's ambiguous with respect to whether there's any formal rule of law that applies to this process, and there isn't. Okay, I'm not saying that it's illegal to do. It's not illegal to do. It's just not consistently applied across the board, because there's a lot of reasons that factor in. Okay, I'm going to give you some. For example, these are some of the legal factors that influence a police officer's use of discretion. Number one would be, no particular order, the seriousness of the crime. Is it a violent crime? Is it a misdemeanor? Is it a felony? Is it a status offense? So the seriousness of the offense plays a role. Number two is the frequency of offending behavior. How many times is this knucklehead getting into trouble, right? Is this their first time having police contact? Are they habitual offenders? That plays a role. Okay? And then number three, does this kid have any prior involvement in the juvenile justice system? Are they on probation? Does the police officer know this kid?
It's extremely frustrating because it's not on the local level.
An Illinois Police Department says they've arrested 3 teenagers in connection with the shooting, but they say it's not their first time. They have 27 prior arrests combined. Good evening, I'm Brendan Morano. Kelly's off tonight. The Peoria Police Department posted their frustrations about the juvenile detention system on social media, and now that post has more than 3,000 shares, including by other departments. WCIA3's Tyler Hill live in our newsroom. Tyler, you talked to a police chief today. What do you have to say?
Brandon, Clinton Police Chief Ben Lowers says he saw the post 2 days ago and agreed with a lot of what they said. He walked me through repeat offenders that they see in their city and his frustrations with the juvenile system.
It's something that we are asked a lot by the public of why are these people not incarcerated after multiple encounters, multiple crimes.
Clinton Police Chief Ben Lowers has been in law enforcement for more than 25 years.
And to be able to incarcerate a juvenile has just become seemingly increasingly more difficult to do.
Lowers has two specific examples he can point to as recent as this year.
Just in 2025 alone, those two individuals have accumulated almost 120 documented law enforcement contacts. One of those individuals has been eligible for secure detention twice in just the last 10 days.
But both are still out in the city, something he says is not up to the department.
We put them through kind of a preliminary screening, and when they score high enough for secure detention, we then contact our probation department, and it's worked through them in terms of detention from that point forward.
He says they do a more thorough screening to determine if they will be detained. I got a statement from Director of Sangamon County Court Services, Kent Hallsoppel, saying, "Our facility does not determine who is detained. Rather, we follow the results of a state-mandated detention screening tool, which ensures that detention is used appropriately and consistent with state standards and best practices in juvenile justice." And Lowers says being in a county without its own juvenile detention center adds another challenge.
We have to rely on transportation to surrounding counties. So when we have a juvenile that is eligible for secure detention, we have to rely on those resources.
Lowers says their cases usually come second to the county's own local issues. All in all, the longtime chief says he just wants to make sure there are consequences for breaking the law.
The system isn't teaching them anything, so why would they learn?
Hallsoppel also says we remain committed to public safety while upholding the laws and policies designed to guide. Blah, blah, blah. Sure. That's not helping the cops. It's interesting that they actually put this out on video because this is actually a true, constant, relevant problem with police that they feel so frustrated. They feel frustrated with the kid, obviously, because the kid's an unquit. But they really feel frustrated with the juvenile justice system, probation departments, because they don't want to detain a lot of these kids. And again, not because we don't want the kid, it's because our policies, also dictate who we keep in our custody. So I can tell you because when I retired from the department, I was running the intake unit at Los Padrinos Juvenile Hall. I got these phone calls all the time from cops begging us to keep these kids because they're just acting a fool in the community. And many times we just couldn't because we weren't allowed to. Extremely frustrating now. Yes. So, but I'm surprised that they actually advertised it because I've never seen that before. What about the 3 juveniles being charged as adults for raping a girl in Florida with the adult charge stick? I'm not specifically familiar with that case. I'll have to do some research, but with the adult charge stick, I don't know. There's so again, a lot of factors involved in charging a juvenile as adults. That would be an interesting case to take a look at, though. If they are, let's just say, they are then tried as an adult. Let's say that the process of transfer them to the adult court sticks. Now the system sees these kids. I don't know how old they are. They now see these kids as adults. Okay, even though they're 15, 16, 17, technically a juvenile. Any juvenile that's tried in the adult system, they are treated like an adult. They're seen as an adult, and they're punished as an adult. So if they're found guilty, they go to prison. They're going to adult prison, not juvenile facility. Okay, because they're being tried as an adult. Okay, I'll look at the case. If you can send me like a name or something that I can reference, I'll take a look at it. Yeah, we can tell. But again, in California, if this was happening in California, we just don't try kids as adults in large numbers anymore. It's extremely, extremely rare. But we used to a lot. Definitely a lot. So legal factors, seriousness of the offense, frequency of the offending behavior, and then if they have any prior contact with the juvenile justice system, okay? And there's a lot of other factors. Let me get into that before time runs out. Here's some other factors that we can consider. Again, in no particular order. Number 1, think this one's also relevant. It's pretty big. It's the wishes of the victim. If the victim is insisting that the officer arrests the kid's going to get arrested. But it works the other way around too. If the victim is saying, "No, I don't want to press charges. I don't want the kid arrested. He's 15," then more than likely the kid's probably not going to get arrested. So the wishes of the victim are heard here, at least at the street level. That's relevant, absolutely relevant. Number two, I think I kind of mentioned it already. The nature of the violation. Also keep in mind that there's such thing as mitigating circumstances and aggravating circumstances. So two kids fighting, fist fighting, street fight kind of thing. Simple assault, no big deal, right? Right. One kid gets the better of the other kid, knocks him down, and then he goes over there and starts pouncing on his head with his foot. That's different. That's an aggravating circumstance now. Probably is going to lead to an arrest, right? But if it's just a regular street fight, so you're looking at the nature of the violation. Number three, something that I mentioned, but I'll get into a little bit more. The race, the attitude, and the gender of the offender. Attitude's a big deal here. I think that also goes for adults as well too. But if you really want to, almost guarantee that a kid's going to get arrested, two things should happen. One, it has to be a pretty serious crime, and then number two, if he starts mouthing off to the cop, that will 100% guarantee an arrest. Attitude is relevant. Extremely relevant. Prior contacts, we talked about that. Knowledge about prior contacts with the juvenile. So if the police know this kid, like the video you just saw, these two kids or three kids had a combined contact of 127 times, or whatever the number was, right? Prior contacts. Number five, something I really haven't even mentioned yet, is the parents. What role do the parents play in this? Are the parents cooperative? Are they sympathetic to the police officers? Frustration. Hey, I don't know why my kid's acting this way. That's not the way he was raised, and I'll make sure he's going to get punished. Blah blah blah. Or are the parents like, F you, cop? Why are you picking on my kid? And that kind of stuff. Right? So the parents' attitude and their cooperation. That's a factor. Number six, the location where this incident occurred, or the setting where the incident occurred. Was it on private property? Was it on public property? Was it on school campus? Was it inside the home? Those kind of things. So the setting, the location, also plays a role. Here's something, number 7, the time of day. If you get a kid, police make contact with a kid at 2 o'clock in the morning, that kid's going to be detained, 100%. Kid's going to be detained. Again, remember that mindset. I got to protect this kid. So the kid's going to get detained. No questions asked. Okay. If they happen to be if the police officer makes contact with the kid at 2 in the morning and they're drunk, now it leads to an arrest, being intoxicated in public. So time of day is relevant. The next one, I think it's 8. I briefly mentioned this one. The age of the police officer. And you don't think that is really a factor? It actually is. There are some, there's a couple of studies out, and this is more relevant to probation officers, but I think it's transferable to police officers. Older officers tend to look at themselves more within the the framework of rehabilitation, helping, treatment. Younger officers, like you guys coming into the police department today, 24, 25, 26, you look at your role as a police officer from the lens of being a punitive officer, like, hook them and book them and making arrests and keeping, your foot up their asses so they don't, to commit crimes and stuff like that, right? So that, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong. I'm not criticizing that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong. And sometimes, you know what? That tends to help you with your career advancements. Absolutely. All those things are true, right? But I think that attitude and that view tends to shift the longer you're in the department and the older that you get. So age is relevant here. Officers who are parents are more sympathetic. True. Rookies love to give tickets. Well, but I think they're pressured into that as well. I don't know about the love part of it. I think they're pressured. Again, they want to present themselves as a team player. They want to present themselves as, I want to be part of this process, right? So they have to do things to make themselves be part of this community of police officers. So I don't know if I would say they love writing tickets, but I think they do it because they feel like they need you, right? I can't tell you the last time I saw an LAPD officer write a ticket. Maybe some of you probably have a different experience, but I have not seen an LAPD officer pull over a driver on the side of the road and issue a ticket. And is it because of staffing? Is it because of, they have other things to do? They're short staffed. They don't know how to write. They haven't written a ticket in a long time. I don't know. Most really don't care. Again, I don't know if I can say that to go to that degree, but maybe they just know that it's all this work and nothing's going to come out of it. The judge is going to dismiss it anyway, right? So yeah, that could be part of it. Sheriffs used to give tickets for jaywalking okay, that's true. And surprisingly, so did most police departments. However, I don't know if you meant specifically jaywalking, but a few years ago, California passed a law that police officers cannot give tickets for jaywalking anymore. So jaywalking is no longer a traffic violation, which I think is a dumb rule. But California. All right. So was that 8? That was 8, right? The age of the police officer. If you want to put in parentheses the gender of the police officer, because that's relevant too. And then the local laws and statutes and ordinances, what the law says, and because every community is different. And there's a lot of other ones too, by the way. Those are just some of the ones that I came up with. Other legal factors. Okay, these are what's called extra legal. These are the ones that we have a problem with, folks. These aren't cool. We don't talk about these, but they exist. And that is race as a factor, gender as a factor, and someone's social class. The color of your skin should have no bearing on how you are treated. Absolutely, 100% true. I agree with that statement. It's absolutely true. What was 9 is the laws. The 9, one this isn't working. The laws and the statutes and the ordinances in the community. What the laws really stipulate. Like jaywalking. There you go. We don't give tickets for jaywalking anymore. That's the law. Okay, so race, gender, and social class. Okay, we do know, and again, there's plenty of information that'll support this. We do know that males and females, juveniles, I'm talking about juveniles specifically, are treated differently. Girls, juvenile girls, again, we tend to have this paternalistic view that we need to somehow protect the girls, right? So we're more willing to be a little bit more lenient and allow them to maybe, get away with other things. Boys, we see them very differently, aggressive, violent, so they get treated a little bit differently. So gender does play a role, absolutely. Social class, again, just unfortunately that is relevant. That again, we talk about, we don't talk about in public, but how much money that your parents make, or the type of home that you live in, really shouldn't have any bearing in how you're treated by the police, but it really is. Yeah, it is. So again, as a point of reference, if anybody's interested, there's some information here about assessing the race, crime, and ethnicity crime relationship in a sample of serious adolescent delinquents. It talks about, police discretion, what they use, what are some of the factors in discretion, stuff that we've been talking about. But if you want to see it in a peer review type of source, this is a good link, by the way. So, interested in taking a look at that, you can. Okay. Again, unfortunately, these factors do still influence police officers. Here, obviously, we're talking about cases of racism and classism, sexism. Okay. What about personal and situational factors that influence police officer discretion? Yeah, there's some of those. I think some of the stuff that I've mentioned already. Number or eight, I would say the demeanor of the minor, the behavior of the minor is huge. It really is. If this kid's a smartass, if he's disrespecting the cop, it's not going to end well. It really will. Number two, family situation. Parents play a huge role. Okay. But in the sense of, and so family situation you can look at it from a couple of angles. One is, how are the parents responding to the interaction between the cop and the kid, right? That's one. But then the cop looks at this from another angle. For example, do I feel comfortable putting this kid back in his house? Is there potential that he's being abused? Right? Is the family a safe place for this kid to be? If I don't think that this parent or parents can provide adequate supervision for this kid, that's going to be a factor in whether I release that kid back to his or her family, right? So the family situations is a factor in the discretion. And number three, something I mentioned already, what does the victim want? Okay. Victim wishes are really big in this as well too. Okay. Police departments are very different. You wouldn't think that they are, but yes, they are very different. Some police departments take a more casual, hands-off approach. Again, I think the video kind of highlighted some of that frustration. I know of cops who have told me that I'm not going to bother writing this kid a ticket because nothing's going to happen to this kid. It's just a waste of time, right? So if you work for a police department that is more legalistic, they have a legalistic style of policing, that means that you as a police officer are going to make more arrests because that's what's expected of you from that police department, from the leadership. Okay. And all police departments are not legalistic, by the way. They don't have a legalistic style of management. Okay, but if you happen to work for one, you're going to be making a lot of arrests. There are some police departments that have more of a watchman style, guardian style. Okay, again, I'm specific to juvenile. So if you work for a police department that has more of that watchman style, you're going to make fewer arrests. Okay, because then your mode, your lens is service, protection. It's not making an arrest. Okay, so just kind of understand the difference in that. Police departments, that's good. That's good. Yeah. The peers. Oh, brother. The peers. 3 kids walking down the street. I don't know, acting a fool or something. I don't know what they're doing. Citizen, neighbor calls 911. Hey, there's 3 kids. They're loud, they're rowdy, they're whatever, right? Police make contact with the group. One of these kids sticks out like a sore thumb. F you, why are you this and that? And do you know who my father is? You know, all that stuff, right? The other 2 are quiet. They're like, you know, they're not giving you any problems. There's a really good chance that those 3 kids are probably going to get detained because of the actions of one kid. Peer associates is very critical. That's an important factor. Okay, if a kid is hanging around with other gang members, if they're hanging around with other delinquent kids, if the police know this group of kids as troublemakers, they're going to be detained and arrested. Okay. Individual characteristics. Again, that part goes to the attitude of the kid, the maturity level of the kid, the age of the kid, right? All of those play important roles in police officer discretions and whether to make an arrest or not. Okay. And then I want to make reference to number 3, the juvenile justice characteristics of the community. Because if you were listening to the cop in the video, the last video that I played, and he made reference to this, and something that we don't really necessarily pay attention to, especially in LA County because we're so large, is that there are several police departments, small police departments, that don't have the space to house juveniles. Remember, they have to be separated, right, from the adults. So does that necessarily play a role in them being detained? Yes, it does. And the officer, the police chief on video, made reference to that. You know, we don't have a juvenile facility in our community, so we have to rely on transporting them to a juvenile hall that's, 45 minutes away, an hour away. So now you have 2 officers, one, but preferably 2. One officer that now needs to transport this kid, so now you're going to have that officer off of patrol for at least 2.5 hours for a round trip, right? If there's no place to put this kid, that's a factor. That's going to determine whether the police detain this kid or not. Okay. Again, this dives deeper into the whole discretion and dispositional practices of the police when they handle juvenile cases. Interesting article. If you're interested, take a look at it. Okay. Oh, okay. I have to hit this slide because there's a question on the quiz, I think. On this one. Okay, so specific to police and gangs, not too deep because we already talked about gangs anyway, but as reported by the National Gang Center, again, great resource, by the way, large police departments that have a gang unit, if you will, the police efforts and gang suppression or control involve three factors. Some of the stuff we talked about. Community policing is one of them. Gang enforcement is number 2. And number 3 is having tactical units. It's like the SWAT team. It's a tactical unit, right? Police efforts at gang suppression, controlling gangs, containing gangs, and controlling involve community policing, getting out of your car, walking around, getting to know people, community policing, right? Gang enforcement. You got to enforce the rules, no loitering, stuff like that. And then tactical units. Okay, those are the 3. And I'm going to stop here for today. We'll finish up on Monday. Any last questions regarding the paper? Here's your chance. If not, have a great rest of your week. Enjoy this beautiful weather.